I am your host, Bad Takes. Excited to get into this Week 11 recap. But before I do that, again, I'm on my road to my first 100 subscribers. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. You can see up there, I am up to 81 subscribers. So we are almost there. We need 19 more subscribers to hit 100. I'm doing a giveaway as soon as I hit 100. It's a portable Bluetooth speaker. It breaks into two different speakers. So you get that sort of surround sound sort of feel. Again, also make sure to like and comment on this live stream. Let's see how many people we can get in here. Let's have a good time. Let's let some people get in here. We'll start shortly, but again, we'll be going over those Week 11 games. We'll talk a little bit about the Monday Night Football game tonight. Excited to get into it with everyone. Everyone have a good weekend? Everyone have a good time this weekend? It was actually beautiful in Charlotte, North Carolina. I know that for sure. But yeah, anyone have any fun stories? Anything they're super excited to report about from this past weekend? I know there was some crazy college football that happened, along with the NFL, obviously. So again, feel free to chime in if there's anything exciting to report from this past weekend. Again, we'll wait for more people to pile in, but we'll be getting started shortly. As you can see here, I actually have a brand new logo as well. Shout out to getting that new logo. Super exciting. Boom. Yeah, we'll get started very shortly. Again, we'll be going over the Week 11 games that happened yesterday. We had a game happen in Madrid. Reports I heard, a lot of Americans actually at that game in Madrid. I'm not sure if anyone else heard the same thing, but apparently there was a lot of American fans that traveled to the game in Spain. And from what I understand, probably will be the last time we host a game in Madrid. Apparently not nearly as many American football fans there. So we'll talk a little bit about that morning game as well as the other matchups. But again, make sure you pile in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. As you can see here, I'm at 81 subscribers. We were so close to 100. I only need 19 more subscribers. Make sure you also say hello to Mags. She's already here. So excited to hop into the Week 11 games. And again, we'll get started shortly. Mags, come here. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. Again, I won't talk too much about the game in Madrid for a couple reasons. Mainly, we're talking about two teams that have amounted total between the two teams to 7 wins, but also 15 losses. So we're talking about the Washington Commanders and the Miami Dolphins. The biggest takeaway I have from this game was both teams played sloppy. Right? Neither one of these teams were playing at a high level. There were a couple players that I would say played at a high level. Number one being Devon Achane. Devon Achane, the running back for the Miami Dolphins, he is looking like one of the best running backs in the NFL, just plain and simple. He's not necessarily crushing it from like a specific yardage, right? Like whether it's rushing or receiving. But, you know, when you look at it, he has 900 yards. He's third in the NFL right now in rushing. And he's also not bad from a receiving perspective either. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick just to kind of get some numbers from receiving perspective. But I imagine he's actually probably one of the top receivers for the Dolphins as well. Let me see if I can find him. If not, I know what I'll do. Boom. Devon Achane. How many receiving yards does Devon Achane have? Let's look into that a little bit. So far this regular season, He's got 370 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns, and that's on top of 900 yards rushing and 5 rushing touchdowns. So he's got 9 touchdowns total. Again, Devon Achane is looking like one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. He had 120 yards rushing on 21 attempts in that overtime win for the Miami Dolphins. Mags, come here. Get away from your sister. Come here. Sorry, guys. Mags is wanting to hang out with Layla, and Layla doesn't always want to hang out with Magnolia. But anyway, yeah. So this Dolphins team, I feel like this was a game I expected a little bit more out of them. what I'll say is I'm kind of going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And what I mean by the benefit of the doubt in this situation is the fact that they were playing in Europe, right? They were playing in Madrid. And so they weren't nearly as explosive on offense as they've been the last couple weeks. More specifically, what I'm talking about is Tua Tagovailoa. He had 171 yards passing in this game. Not necessarily something to write home about. It wasn't necessarily the hero of this game. Again, really the hero of this game would be Devon Achane, in my opinion, along with both of their defenses. Both of their defenses obviously played pretty sound in order for this game to happen the way it did. But one other thing I'll mention is this was probably the best game from Deebo Samuel. I will say that. Deebo Samuel, he had 7 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown in this game. So that is what they brought him in here for to begin with. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that is the main reason why they brought him in, was to have games like this. I'm going to put a question in chat just so everyone knows. So I put a question in chat just so everyone knows. So feel free to answer that. I'm just curious if anyone has, specific names in mind of teams that should be in panic mode right now. I know for a fact this Washington Commanders team should not be in panic mode purely because they don't have a shot at really making the playoffs at this point, especially because this Eagles team that keeps winning. We'll talk more about that Eagles team, by the way. I'll be honest, I'm not sold on them. I truly am. I'm not sold on this Bengals team, on this Commanders team. Jeez, I am so bad at this. I am not sold on this Eagles team. Jeez, talk about a Monday. I am sorry, guys. But yeah, the overtime game against the Commanders, Miami winning this game. They go to 4-7. I believe this is 3 wins in a row for the Dolphins. Let me confirm that real fast. But yeah, 2 wins in a row for the Dolphins. So they are now 3-1 in the last 4 games. So they lost against the Ravens, but they've beaten the Falcons, the Bills, and the Commanders in the last 4 games. So, props to Miami for turning things around. Again, I still wonder if this is sort of the if Mike McDaniel is still in a tryout for being the head coach, and if Tua Tagovailoa is still fighting for his roster spot for this team. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but when you pay Tua as much as you've paid him, and you've gotten the performance out of him that you've gotten so far this year, it hasn't been completely terrible, especially the last 4 weeks. But before that, this was a team that has talent on their roster. They have the names, they have the pedigree to be a competitive team. But again, they just find ways to lose. When you compare this Dolphins team to a team like the Patriots, in their division, right? The Patriots last year, I think they had 4 wins total. Miami was a little bit above them last year, and if I'm being honest, from a roster perspective, Miami didn't have nearly as many. Here's what I'll say: New England added some really good pieces. Miami didn't really add many, but they also had pieces in place already, and so the fact that they are a 4-7 team right now, and the New England Patriots are 9-2, says a lot about the culture. And again, that's why I really do feel like Mike McDaniel is probably still trying out to keep his head coaching job in Miami. Here's one other question I have before I go into the next game, and I would love for someone to answer this in chat. So if you are in chat, please let me know. Was last year's season for the Commanders a fluke? I know that Jaden Daniels is injured right now, so everyone, you can kind of use that as a crutch. You can use that as an excuse. He had an injury prior to being out. Now he's had 2 injuries this year already, but even when Jaden Daniels has played for this team, I would not consider this team nearly as good as what they looked like last year. And they added some weapons like, again, Deebo Samuel. And so I really am wondering, like, was last year a fluke for this Commanders team? I genuinely want to know what people think about that. So please put in chat, what do you think about last year versus this year's Commanders team? Was it a fluke or was it not? Again, part of me is part of me thinks it was a fluke. I know last year they won a lot of games and they won a lot of games in like really close games at the end, very similar to the Chiefs, right? And now we're seeing this year the Chiefs are on the opposite side of that. They are losing in these one score games where they used to win last year. The Commanders are the exact same way. So again, I myself I'm a little bit more skeptical of this Commanders team. I'm really curious to see if they're going to be able to turn it around next year, because again, this year is already essentially a wash for them. The Eagles have lost one game and they're going to win their division. There's no hope of this Commanders team being a wild card team with how many good NFC teams there are this year. Next game we're going to talk about, and this is my apology letter to Panthers fans. This is my apology letter to what I would say Bryce Young, right? Just in general. This was the best performance I had actually probably seen from Bryce Young all season long. And that is just me being straight up. You know, he threw for almost 400 yards. He had 3 touchdowns in this game. You know, I know Michael Penix went down in this game with a knee injury. Apparently, he's probably out for the rest of the season. The Falcons already were one of those teams as well that I don't think had much of a shot, especially with how they've been playing recently, even again with Michael Penix. But their season is done at this point. I don't think you can argue that. But Bryce Young had 448 yards and 3 touchdowns on 31 of 45 passing. Those are insane numbers. Like Rico Dowdle has been carrying this team. He was like, "Hey, Bryce, I'm tired, man. Can you win this one for us?" And Bryce Young responded. Rico Dowdle on 19 carries had 45 yards. Like that's the sadly the Rico Dowdle numbers we saw when he was kind of with the Cowboys. I don't think he got nearly as many carries, but like that's the amount of yardage he was normally getting with them. And so he had a little bit of a comeback to earth sort of game, in my opinion, for Rico Dowdle. I think he's been playing well. I don't think he's that elite of a running back. I think it's worked out for him in Carolina because of necessity, and I think he's a good fit for how they run. But again, I wouldn't consider him to be one of those top running backs. You know, when you look at his opponent, Bijan Robinson had one of his better games of the season on the ground. He had 23 carries for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. So Bijan Robinson did get back on track. Drake London did go down in this game, as did Michael Penix. And again, it's reported that Michael Penix's knee injury is season-ending. I know there's not a lot of games left. They're 3-7. It's not like they had much hope anyway. They're going to have Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback probably for the rest of this year. I don't see them having a reason to bring in another quarterback. Maybe they'll bring one in just in case something happens to Kirk. But I don't think they're going to like try to find someone to replace Kirk necessarily, because at this point, you're not playing for anything in the NFC South when you're 3-7. I mean, you have the Carolina Panthers. They're 6-5 right now. They are in the playoff hunt. They are just behind the Buccaneers, who have been slipping a lot. So, again, very happy for this Carolina Panthers team. You know, there's a buzz around Charlotte right now. I live in Charlotte, so it's fun to see. Again, I'm happy for Bryce Young because he definitely needed this. I'm still on the fence on him. I'm not going to tell you that this game sold me on him because it still definitely hasn't from that perspective. But, again, great performance. The Panthers winning 30-27. That shows some progression to this team, right? From an offensive perspective, it wasn't their defense that carried them. Offensively, you know, I definitely saw some progression. What do you guys think about that game? Was there any situation in that game you guys were kind of shocked by? Again, the fact that Drake London and Michael Penix to me is going down is just bad news bears for this Falcons team. But, all right, let's get into this next game. Next game we're going to talk about this was the game where everyone went back on the Josh Allen bandwagon, right? Buccaneers versus the Buffalo Bills. So Tampa Bay traveled to Buffalo to face the Bills. And what I would say from this game was, again, this was the Josh Allen, he's an MVP quarterback game. I think he had a great game in this game. He did have 2 interceptions, but he threw for 3 touchdowns, and I think he also had 3 rushing touchdowns. Let me make sure I'm right in saying that. Yeah, he had 6 touchdowns total in this game. 3 on the ground, 3 in the air, and that was a huge differentiator between this Bills team and the Buccaneers. You know, Sean Tucker, the running back for the Bucs, he did his best, job of trying to keep up with the amount of points that the Bills were putting up. He had 2 touchdowns on 106 yards rushing. Baker Mayfield struggled a little bit in this game. This was probably one of his, I would say, worst games of the season so far. He was 16 for 28 for 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Their leading receiver was Sterling Shepard with 54 yards on 4 catches. This Bucs team has lost a little bit of momentum. They've lost a lot of that magic that they had in, I would say, the first 6 games of this year, right? Being 6-4 right now, they are on a pretty bad stretch of losing currently. They've also had some really tough matchups. They've played the Patriots and the Bills, and they're about to play against the Rams. So this Buccaneers team, they've dealt with their fair share of battles. They've lost to the Lions like 4 weeks ago. In between, they had the Saints, so that was kind of like a rest-up game where they won. But again, they just lost a little bit of juice. They lost a little bit of magic, this Buccaneers team. While this Bills team, they needed to win this game. That's the crazy part. The Bills are 7-3, and they have to keep on winning to keep up with this Patriots team, who are now on, I believe, a 7-game win streak, which is insane to even think about in the first place. But again, the Buccaneers, they really do need to get Mike Evans back at this point. I'm not sure how many more weeks he is going to be out, but Baker needs that weapon back. They need to get healthy and get healthy fast because this team is slipping. And like I said, the Panthers are right behind them right now. Like this Panthers team, they're about to go into a tough part of their schedule as well. The Buccaneers, let's take a look real fast. Again, so they have the Rams, the Cardinals, the Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So there's a world, again, where this Panthers team could end up being the number 1 team in the NFC South. Do I think that's going to be the case? No, I think the Bucs are going to turn things back around. They need to get that juice back in that locker room somehow. And again, I just think that, this Bucs team will be the NFC South division leader. But again, they're on a little bit of a slide recently. They've lost 3 of their last 4, and that's never something you want to have, especially in the middle of the season. But luckily, again, it is in the middle of the season, and they still have some time to figure some things out. So again, Buccaneers losing to the Bills. Bills again 7-3 behind Josh Allen. Josh Allen again 6 touchdown game. Huge performance from his perspective, especially with James Cook only getting 48 yards on the ground. Again, that James Cook has been the machine that keeps the Bills going recently. Josh Allen, he's had some good games, but he's also had some pretty bad games this year. This has probably been one of his more inconsistent seasons since early on in his career. I know he's still a younger quarterback, but the first 3 years of Josh Allen compared to the last couple is very different. And he's sort of kind of regressed back to that first couple years, Josh Allen. And this was a game where even though he had those 2 interceptions, getting 6 touchdowns definitely makes up for it. Congratulations to the Bills. Congratulations, Josh Allen, on winning that game. Did anyone else did anyone have the Bucs winning that game? I wanted to. Again, I wanted to. As a Ravens fan, I will say that I was kind of hoping the Bills would lose because I don't think the Ravens are going to be in a place to get a wild card spot. I feel like they have to win the division if they want to get in, but the Bills losing would have helped them. Again, while you're in here, make sure you're posting in chat. Let's have a good time. I want this to be a conversational. Also, make sure to like and comment on this stream. Let's get some more people in here. Again, let's have a fun time. I'm going to talk about all these games, but I also want to be able to banter back and forth and makes it more fun. So again, make sure you chime in. Let's have a good time. Texans versus Titans. I won't talk too much about this game because, let's be honest, not necessarily one of the marquee matchups this week. And there were some really good matchups. But Texans versus Titans, what I would say is, the Titans, at one point they were up 3-0, and that was essentially like the most exciting aspect for the Titans, was the fact that they were up 3-0. Davis Mills outperformed Cam Ward in this game, 26 of 41 for 274 yards and a touchdown. When you compare that to Cam Ward, 24 of 37 for 194 yards and a touchdown. Now, that's actually probably one of Cam Ward's best performances of the year. And I'm not saying that jokingly. Like it actually was probably one of Cam Ward's better games. He has not been the number one pick this Titans team has hoped for. I also know that there's a lot of problems in Tennessee. I'm not putting all of this on Cam Ward, so don't come after me for being a Cam Ward hater. I will say I do not think he deserved to be the number one quarterback or the number one spot, the number one pick. He was the best quarterback probably in this class, but still. Actually, you know what? He's not. I take that back. Jackson Dart's better than him. Jackson Dart's actually a lot better than him. I say that with no problem. But again, this was one of Cam Ward's better games. They're 1-9, this Titans team. Like at a certain point, you should just be like, hey, let's just like try out some people, see if there's like some people on our practice squad that might end up becoming studs, or like trying something like that. Because like when you're in 1-9, like what else are you playing for? You already fired your coach. I believe their GM got fired as well. And so at this point, it's like, hey, let's just see what we have out here to make sure we can prepare for this offseason, because they have a lot of work to do. Sadly, I think one of the things they're going to have to do, even though they don't have a cap problem, is get rid of Jeffrey Simmons. Like trade him to a team that one could benefit from using him, but also you just need to get some draft capital. You need to start from scratch. And so again, doing whatever you can from that perspective is going to be important. Now, this Texans team, I think they've won 2 games now without without CJ Stroud. Davis Mills has proved himself as a confident, competent, and I would say like efficient backup quarterback. I think that's the word I want to use, is efficient. He's not necessarily doing Joe Flacco numbers, but again, he's still being impressive out there. Jacoby Brissett, I'd say, is a little bit above him too. But if Davis Mills was the backup quarterback for the Ravens, I would be excited about that. I'm being honest. Like the way he plays, he just keeps going. Like there was the last week's game that the Texans had. He just never stopped. And this was a game, again, in division. They're 5-5. They needed this win to be able to try to compete for a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to get there, but they're definitely not a team that should be at the bottom of the barrel based off of the talent that they have. Like their defense is one of the best in the league. I think it's number 1. And so, again, winning these games against teams like the Titans is something you should be doing. But again, I'm happy for Davis Mills. I wonder if CJ Stroud will be back next week. The crazy part is they don't necessarily need him to rush back because of how well Davis Mills is playing. Let's go into this next game. Not nearly as this was what I'm talking about here is the Green Bay Packers going to New York to face the New York Giants and winning 27-20 against Jameis Winston. Now, an important factor to also mention about this is the fact that at a certain point, the Giants were actually up in this game. And again, beating the New York Giants, who are on with their third string quarterback, their backup running back, backup receivers, and the 6-3-1 Green Bay Packers win by a touchdown. I'm just going to say this now. Call it a bad take. I am out. I am out on the Green Bay Packers. There is something wrong with this team. Jordan Love had all of his weapons back. And I know they put up 27 points, but again, we are talking about the Giants that they played, who are 2-9 and without every single level of talent that they have. Like, there isn't, besides their pass rush, there is no one else that is good on this Giants team right now. Just straight up. Like, take out their defensive line and then tell me who's their best player. Anyone? Like, take out their defensive line and pass rush. Who's the best player on the Giants team right now? They don't have one. That's how bad this team is without these core guys. And again, they're missing a lot of core players. And so it's not like I'm saying the Giants in general are bad. I think they're a lot better than what their record shows. They've lost a lot of games at the end of games recently. They've given up leads, and that's something that young teams do. Young, inexperienced teams that are badly coached do. And I think they're going to turn that around. Hopefully they find the right match for Jackson Dart. I know the talks are already out there about, gosh, why can't I think of his name right now? The Ole Miss coach, who was his coach in college. Like, everyone's talking about how Lane Kiffin could potentially be going to New York. I don't think Lane Kiffin wants to go to New York. I'm sure the New York media would be a fun thing for him to deal with because he's actually pretty funny and good with the media. But the guy lives an amazing SEC life. He lives in Oxford, Mississippi, makes millions of dollars, and just has a good time. Like, he trolls college football players. He's entertaining to watch. And so again, I do not see him going to the pros. I really don't. I'm very curious to see who this Giants team gets. But again, the Packers, congratulations on winning this game. I'm still out on you. Like, I think you guys will make the playoffs because, again, your defense is solid, even though, again, you gave up 20 points to this Giants team. But there's just something I don't trust. Jameis Winston outthrew Jordan Love. Jameis Winston threw for 200 yards in this game. Jordan Love was 13 of 24 for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdowns, I believe, like, came in the fourth quarter. I could be, no, they were not. But like, he's just too inconsistent right now. It really is a Jordan Love problem. I know Josh Jacobs also went down in this game. Josh Jacobs is kind of like their touchdown getter. He doesn't get a lot of yards, but he gets lots of touchdowns. He's almost like a Tolbert. If you remember Ryan, I think it's Ryan Tolbert, who are the Panthers. Is that his name, Ryan? I can't remember, but he's like Tolbert. Mike Tolbert of the Carolina Panthers. That's his name. But anyway, I'm out on this Packers team, though. I just don't trust them. Now, let's talk about another NFC North team, or actually 2 NFC North teams. I'm talking about the Bears facing off against the Vikings. Now, the biggest thing I want to say about this Bears versus Vikings game is the fact that Justin Jefferson was visibly mad after this game. This team could not score any points. Just J.J. McCarthy did not have a good performance in this game. They're just this Vikings team. They're definitely reeling right now. They truly are. I'm gonna pull up some numbers for you real fast, just to get into this. Again, J.J. McCarthy, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions in this game. Those are he's having too many turnovers these last couple weeks. I believe he had 2 interceptions, almost 3 against the Baltimore Ravens. And so when you are having more interceptions than touchdowns in a game on a regular basis, you're setting your team up for failure. And there's probably a lot of people that are wondering about 9. Who else saw that? How ridiculous was that? I think, who was that even against? The Minnesota Vikings. I think it was against the Lions. So after the Lions, J.J. McCarthy comes out and says, I have an alter ego, and I call him 9, which is his number. Like, very creative, which is fine. You don't need to be. But, again, Jameis Winston, sorry, I'm talking about the wrong game right now. But, again, like, this game came down to it was like literally just like a field goal matchup. That's all this game was just field goal after field goal after field goal. I think there was 1 touchdown in this game. Sorry, there was 1 touchdown in this game until the fourth quarter where the Vikings tried to come back. The Vikings did get 2 touchdowns again in that fourth quarter, 1 rushing, one passing, but this was just like a field goal game. It was really boring to watch. Caleb Williams didn't have his best game of the year. He was pretty much almost 50% throwing. He was under 200 yards passing. I think this was sort of like a throwaway game for this Bears team. I don't think they come out of this feeling overly confident. They did beat a division rival, which is important, right? This Vikings team, again, they are now 4-6. I think it's safe to say that their playoff hopes are pretty much gone. While this Bears team, they're 7-3. Like, if you actually pull up the standings right now, I think the Bears are actually in first place in the NFC North. Yes, they are. This Bears team is in first place in the NFC North, which is crazy. There are some people that actually predicted that. I do know that. Like, I feel like Nick Wright was one of those people. I'm sure he feels like a genius right now. I don't think that will stay the course, although I'm also worried about. There's two teams right now in the NFC North that I am concerned about. But again, the Bears right now, they're top in the division, so props to them. Again, they're Menengai, their running back. He didn't see nearly as much this week because Swift was back. Swift actually had 90 yards rushing in this game. And again, Menengai, he had 12 carries but for 23 yards. And so you're starting to see that more. You're starting to see DeAndre Swift kind of gain those touches and those leading rushes back from this team. From a receiving perspective, it was pretty mixed bag. No like true leader. Cole Kmet, 41 yards. Rome Odunze, 45 yards for Cole Kmet, 41 for Rome, and then 30 yards for Colston Loveland. I am happy that they are using Loveland more. Luther Burden also had 3 catches, but for 27 yards. So you're starting to see these young weapons get the ball more. But again, the Vikings, they are their season's essentially over at this point. I do not see them being able to really claw back. Let me look up their schedule real fast just to confirm that. So they play the Packers, Seahawks. I see them beating the Commanders. I see them beating the Cowboys. I see them beating the Giants. Then Lions, Packers. So I think they're going to really come out of this like 500 in the last couple games. But again, it's just not going to be enough. Like, they would need to win out really to have a shot. I just don't see that happening. Anyone else have any feelings or thoughts on feelings? Anyone have any feelings on the Vikings? Pun intended. Adam Thielen. But again, yeah, just this Bears team. Props to them though. Ben Johnson, he's turned this team around. He's turning them around in a big way. We're going to talk about another division rivalry game. This one actually is going to be in the AFC North though. Talking about the Bengals versus the Steelers. If you're in this live stream, if you're in chat, tell me what you think about the fact that Jamar Chase was suspended for a game. Pretty crazy in my opinion. I don't know if you deserve a 1-game suspension for spitting on someone. I'll be honest. Call me crazy. Maybe I'm like not classy. Whatever you want to say. Mags, get away. Come here. But yeah, I'm not sold on the fact that he got a 1-game suspension. What I will say again. The Steelers winning this game 34-12. The AFC North is still open, right? I will say that. Like, the Steelers team, they are not sitting here comfortably where they are at the record they have, which is 6-4. They're 1 game above the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens have won 4 games in a row. And again, they also didn't play well this past Sunday. I will tell you that. But one of the interesting aspects of this game is the fact that, again, Mason Rudolph ended up having to play this game and finish this game out for the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers went down pretty early in this game. I think it was somewhere in the second quarter. And so really the entire second half was Mason Rudolph. And it's come out and they've said that Aaron Rodgers fractured his wrist. It's not his throwing arm though. And that's like the good news for the Steelers team is the fact that it's not his throwing arm. And apparently he's trying to lobby to play. I think he knows that they are in a must-win situation moving forward. I think he knows that the Ravens team has caught lightning in a bottle in a sense, even though, again, they didn't play well this last week. But the Steelers can't afford to really drop another one. And the Steelers team, they played the Bears, the Bills, the Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Browns, Ravens. Magnolia. That dog. And so it's not like they have an easy schedule coming up. Like this Bears team, again, they're 7-3 right now. They're first in the NFC North. That is not a game that is in Chicago. That is not a game they want to lose. And so if Mason Rudolph is starting that game, I cannot put that game. I cannot give the Steelers that game. It would have to be one of their marquee defensive dominated games. I know that it looked like that this past week. They played the Steelers really well. They only gave up 12 points against Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. They put up 12 points against this team. When you actually pull up the numbers of what actually happened in that game. 1 second here. Joe Flacco threw for under 200 yards. That's like for the first time in a while that's been the case. 1 second. Lane, I need you to move this way a little bit. And Mags, I need you to move as well. Get out. Out. Mags, all right, you want to come say hello? I want to say hi to Magnolia. This is Magnolia. But anyway, the Bengals, they can't afford to not have Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is going to be out for the game against the Patriots. That worries me a lot. That worries me a lot because they are 3-7, and going up against the Patriots without Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, you're essentially saying you're going to be 3-8 going up against Baltimore the following week. So they do have a bye, so that is a good news for this Bengals team as they get 1 week of rest. They lost Taylor Britt as well, one of their cornerbacks, but they're just in trouble, but somehow alive. That's like the craziest part is the fact that the Bengals at 3-7 still have a shot at this division. Like they don't have to even win out. They're 3 games behind the Steelers. They don't play the Steelers again, so like they need to win other games. But again, that's a huge aspect of this. And again, I just don't know what this Steelers team could do if Aaron Rodgers isn't able to play. I also don't know how Aaron Rodgers can play effectively with a fractured wrist. Like, is he gonna have a cast? Right? Is he gonna have to wear some heavy brace, or is he gonna have to wear a cast? Because a fractured wrist, that's not some little thing. That's not a minor issue. So I'm really curious what that's going to look like for the Steelers team. Again, they are 6-4. They are the top of the AFC North. They are in the playoffs currently. But losing Aaron Rodgers could lead to some serious problems for this team. Let's talk a little bit about the Chargers versus the Jags. This is another game, I think, where you just say to yourself, any given Sunday, right? I think I did not have this result on my bingo card, but the Jaguars absolutely spanked the Los Angeles Chargers. The Jacksonville Jaguars, again, this wasn't even a game where, I would say Trevor Lawrence turned things around and became some amazing player too. He threw for 153 yards. And the Jaguars still won this game 35-6. If you actually look at how they scored, field goal. Sorry, I was reading the wrong side. Touchdown by Tootin, touchdown by ETN, touchdown by Lawrence, touchdown by Tim Patrick. So Trevor Lawrence again, and then ETN, right? So this was a balanced attack. That is how this Jaguars team has to win, is you have to be balanced, but you have to have a heavy load of either ETN or Tootin because this team relies on the run. Trevor Lawrence is not the answer. So the fact that Trevor Lawrence beat Justin Herbert, here's the other aspect of this that is also weird. Justin Herbert had 81 yards in this game. He was also the leading rusher in this game with 21 yards on 3 carries. Can someone explain to me how Justin Herbert throws the ball 18 times in a loss for 81 yards and it has an interception? I don't know how that even happens. You would think that he would have a lot of yards because they're unable to score, and so they're losing, and so they have to throw the ball a lot. But that wasn't even the case. And when you actually look at the defense, he got sacked 3 times. It wasn't like he was sacked 12 times. This wasn't like Myles Garrett chasing him down constantly. And so again, I don't understand how this Jacksonville Jaguars team operates. It truly doesn't make sense to me, if I'm being completely honest. this Chargers team though, they need to figure it out fast though. Like I don't know, like they need Omarion Hampton back first off, but it's obvious to me that this team plays inconsistently without Joe Alt. That's the biggest part of this. Again, pass rush wasn't the biggest issue, but when your leading rusher has 21 yards on 3 carries, there's something very seriously wrong with your run game. And the pass game itself, 81 yards, makes no sense. Trey Lance, he did get into this game. He had 37 yards. That was during garbage time. But again, receivers were like a non-factor. Lad McConkey, 3 catches for 13 yards. Like, they just didn't show up on the East Coast. Half their team didn't fly to Jacksonville is the only answer I have for you when it comes to this Chargers-Jacksonville game. Let's talk a little bit about the Seahawks versus the Rams. This was a really good game. And what I would say, the feel I had in this game, even though it was a close game, 19-21, right? The Rams beat the Seahawks 19-21. I will say it kind of felt like the entire game the Rams did control this game. You know, they went up 14-3 in the first quarter. Seahawks added 3 more points, field goals, another 3 points in the third, you know, to make it basically a tied game. It was 13-14, I believe, or 12-14. Sorry, it was 12-14, and then they both scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and so it was a close game. But the biggest issue is the fact that Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, but they essentially exchanged every good drive for a field goal, while the Rams they took advantage and got touchdowns when they needed. So that's like a big part of this and I talked about this in my live stream before this game. So last Wednesday I was like, I'm going to take the Rams purely because Matt Stafford has played in big games and he knows how to play in a game where like you need this win. And this is a new territory for Sam Darnold. He's been in really one playoff environment sort of game, and that was last year's playoffs with the Vikings. And he lost that game, and he had a very bad performance. And a lot of people were kind of hesitant and were like, I don't know about Sam Darnold after that game. I'm not selling out on Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold has had a great year. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league this year. Overall, I do think that he has gotten the turnover bug recently. He's had a lot of turnovers recently. Even in that game where they won last week, he kind of let the team back in. Their opponents back in because he kept turning the ball over. I think he had like a couple of interceptions as well as fumbles. I think he had 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions in that game. So again, like these multiple turnover games for Sam Darnold, they really need to stop those. The fact that this team is so good that they continued to stay in this game, even with those turnovers, says a lot about how good the Seahawks team is. Like that is something that you can't sort of just like gloss over with the Seahawks team. Like this Rams team is really good. They're looking like the best team in the NFL right now, besides maybe the Patriots. And so losing this game on the road with the quarterback that threw 4 interceptions, and you only lost by 2 points. Again, that says a lot about your team. So you have to be really, you have to take it with a grain of salt that you lost this game. You have to be like, hey, like we lost this game, but we played like shit, and that's why we lost this game. It's not because they got outplayed by the Rams. The Rams controlled the game because of turnovers. But again, the Seahawks did show that like if they clean those turnovers up, they can win that game. Let's talk about the 49ers and the Cardinals briefly. The 49ers, I had them winning this game. I did. And I didn't think they were going to absolutely crush the Cardinals the way that they did. Here's like the question for me, and this is something I struggle with. I'll be honest, I missed some aspects of this game. How does Jacoby Brissett throw for 452 yards and you only put up 22 points? The short answer is their leading rusher ran for 24 yards, had a touchdown, by the way. Brissett had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions are also a factor in this. But like you just look at this and be like, how was this game this lopsided? Even though statistically, it looks like the Cardinals, from an offense perspective, played pretty well. What it comes down to is the 49ers are well coached. Brock Purdy, first game back, he was efficient, right? 200 yards passing, but 3 touchdowns on 19 of 26 throwing. Like, he was very efficient. He looked good out there. Christian McCaffrey did what he had to do, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns rushing in this game. George Kittle, 67 yards and 2 touchdowns for him receiving, right? Like, this 49ers team, they're 7-4, and they're just so beaten down. Like, I've used this analogy before, but the 49ers are like that knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. If you've seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and the guy's like, none shall pass. And he's standing there, and eventually, like, the guy he gets one arm chopped off, then a leg chopped off, then the other arm chopped off, and then his other leg. Like, that is the 49ers. He's still standing there. He's like, oh, it's just a flesh wound. Like, they are not fazed by the amount of injuries they have. Like, they're like playing without 2 arms, and they're still winning games. It's unbelievable. I give the credit to the coaching for, Kyle Shanahan, and again, the leadership from a player's perspective. Huge fan of CMC, huge fan of Kittle. I think this team, if they make the playoffs, even though they're already going to be without their main defensive players, I think they might make some noise. I truly do believe that, just because when you're resilient like this, when you go through the mud to get to the top, you know what it's like, and you have that to fall back on. You know how hard it is. So, again, props to the 49ers for winning that game. That's a huge win for them. Ravens versus Browns. Here's what I'll say about this game. Well, a couple things. One, Ravens won this game, and they won this game in the weirdest fashion ever. And I think every team is probably pissed off at the Baltimore Ravens right now. I will say that. And I think they're pissed off at the Baltimore Ravens for one reason, and it's the fact that they are the first people to pull off the fake tush push. And they ran it in for a touchdown. Mark Andrews, it was like a 39-yard rushing touchdown. It was 16-16 with like 2 minutes 40 seconds left. Somewhere right around there. 2 minutes 41, 2 minutes 51 seconds, somewhere right around there. But Mark Andrews lined up in the tush push spot on the 39-yard line, 4th and 1. Everyone was expecting him to snap and just try to push forward. Ends up turning around, spins around, and runs to the outside and scores a touchdown, making it 23-16. And that was the difference in this game. Lamar Jackson, people, if you look at this from like a box score perspective, right? You look, Lamar Jackson, 193 yards and two interceptions, no touchdowns. Both of those interceptions were tipped passes. Like, I don't put either one of those on Lamar Jackson, if I'm being fully honest. Like, this Ravens team, they just kept finding ways to shoot themselves in the foot, though. Whether it was a fumbled punt return, which led to the first touchdown for the Cleveland Browns, or those interceptions, or a penalty on a punt, an offsides on a penalty on a punt that allowed the Browns to keep the ball and continue their drive going, which ended up in points again, right? Like, this Ravens team, they shot themselves in the foot over and over, but because this Cleveland Browns team is so bad, we're still able to win this game. Another important factor, and something I obviously have to talk about with this game, is the fact that Shedeur Sanders got his first playing time in a regular season game against the Baltimore Ravens. Dylan Gabriel did not finish this game. After the first half, he went into the locker room and did not come back out. Shedeur Sanders started the entire second half for this Browns team. Dylan Gabriel was 7 of 10 for 68 yards before he went down in this game. Shedeur Sanders, 4 of 16, right? So 25% completion percentage for 47 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. They were in the lead, and I knew even then, I was like, the Ravens are going to win this game, but they're going to win this game in a weird way, and they don't deserve to. That is exactly what I said in the group chat. If you want screenshots, I will show you. But they couldn't move the ball, and so the Ravens just kept getting opportunity after opportunity to score. Like, there was a point in time where Derrick Henry ran. He had it was like a 59-yard rush. He got caught up to by, I believe, Denzel Ward. And if Denzel Ward didn't tackle him, it would have been a touchdown. The Browns kept the Ravens out of the end zone and forced a field goal. Like the Ravens just kept kicking field goal after field goal after field goal. It was an ugly game to watch. This was not an enjoyable game, probably for either one of those teams. The last thing I'll say about this game prior to moving on is the fact that Myles Garrett, another 4-sack performance. He had 4 sacks in this game, and the Browns still lost. Like, if I'm Myles Garrett, like, first off, you're an idiot. All right, sorry. You're not an idiot because you're getting paid $40 million a year. But, like, if you really cared about winning, you're an idiot. That's what I'll say. If you actually cared about winning, you are an idiot, Myles, because you asked for a trade. And guess what? Any team around the NFL would have paid you $40 million a year happily. Mags, away from her. Any team around the NFL would have paid you $40 million happily. Any of them. So like, it's not like you only could have gotten that money in Cleveland. They just threw a fucking contract in front of your face, and you're like, okay, never mind. I don't need a trade. $40 million a year, I'm good. Did you really not think someone else would do that? Look at how much Micah Parsons is getting paid. Look at Aiden Hutchinson. And you're Myles Garrett. You're the best pass rusher in the history of the NFL at this point. I will say it. I know people are like, oh, Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White. Myles Garrett is going to blow their numbers out of the water. This is the best defensive player in NFL history that we are talking about here. Myles Garrett. Someone else say otherwise. But somehow this Browns team is 2-8. It's obvious why, right? We talked about the quarterback play. Their 2 rookie quarterbacks combined for, let's just do the math real quick, 115 yards. That is what these 2 rookie quarterbacks combined for, is 115 yards and an interception. Now again, Dylan Gabriel 7 of 10 for 68 yards. Shedeur Sanders 4 of 16, 1 interception. I think everyone is sitting here saying this is why Dylan Gabriel got the time over Shedeur Sanders. And that is a very fair argument. What I will say is Shedeur Sanders also hasn't been getting nearly as many reps as Dylan Gabriel. I'm not sitting here saying like, hey, like both of these guys, I don't think either of these guys are the answer is my honest take. But I do think if Shedeur Sanders had more time to prepare, like if for some reason he has to start in their next game, I do think he would perform better than this. But again, Ravens won 23-16. The Ravens are now 5-5. They started out, they were 1-5. So they've won 4 games in a row. Huge win for this Baltimore Ravens team. That was also, they just finished up I think it was a 3-game away stretch. It might even have been more. No, it was 3 games. So they now have 3 games at home. They're going to play the Jets, the Bengals, and then the Steelers. So those are 3 games that they need to win. If they beat the Bengals, they beat the Steelers. They play the Bengals again right after that. I think if they win the next 3 games, I would say the Bengals are going to be out of it, and that would put them ahead of the Steelers. And it would make it so that the game against the Steelers, final week of the season, will be the game that decides everything. I think what it's going to come down to is that last week. Because I don't think either of these teams are going to win out. I don't think the Ravens are good enough to win out. I don't think the Steelers are good enough to win out. So I think it's going to come down to that game, Week 18, between the Ravens and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. The fact that it's in Pittsburgh is a huge advantage for Pittsburgh. Let's talk. Next game we're going to talk about. We got 2 games left, just so everyone knows. Next game we're going to talk about. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos won in Denver 22-19. The Chiefs are 5-5. The Broncos are 9-2. So the Broncos they're tied for the second best record in the NFL right now. Tied for the best record in the NFL right now. This is coming off of a couple weeks where the Broncos offense really struggled. And I know everyone's saying, like, well, they only scored 22 points. The Chiefs' defense is good. So, first off, scoring 22 points against the Chiefs' offense is impressive. The Chiefs' defense is impressive. Bo Nix, 295 yards in this game. Kareem Hunt was the leading rusher at 59 yards and a touchdown. But this Broncos team, they didn't get much production, if any, on the ground. It was like 30 yards was their leading rusher for RJ Harvey. I believe J.K. Dobbins is injured right now. Yeah, he did not play in this game. That hurt this Broncos team, but it didn't stop them. Their defense, Broncos defense is one of the best in the NFL. They had 3 sacks on Patrick Mahomes. You could kind of feel like he felt that pressure throughout the game. I think he just kept expecting it. Props though to Travis Kelce, leading receiver for this Chiefs team. He did have one big drop in this game, but he had 9 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown in this game. You know, their next leading receiver, Tyquan Thornton, had 1 catch for 61 yards, right? So they really needed that performance from Travis Kelce. Obviously wasn't enough. Patrick Mahomes, I think we're starting to see what a little bit of like what a mortal Patrick Mahomes looks like this year. He's had a great season, don't get me wrong, but I said this earlier in the stream. These were the games, these 1-point game or one score, like one possession games. Last year, the Chiefs team, they won these games. Like these are the games that they came out on top, and that is why they were in the Super Bowl, because they found ways to win those close games. And this year, they're not doing that. That is why they're 5-5, and they are outside of the playoff picture right now. They have the same record as the Ravens. They're just hanging out in the hunt. If you look at one of those, like visuals that the ESPN puts up or whoever you follow, right? They're in the hunt. I don't know how much of it in the hunt they are, and let's just take a look at their schedule coming up real fast just to see. So they have the Colts, the Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders. There's a lot of those games they can win. So they're not, I don't think they're like SOL. Playing against the Colts this week, they're coming off of 2 losses in a row after having a bye. The fact that Andy Reid also lost after having a bye, that's pretty unheard of. Andy Reid is a genius. He's a wizard. And so the fact that he wasn't prepared enough and they end up losing this game, that says a lot. But again, they play against the Colts Nets. If they lose this game and become 5-6, that would have me worried. But yeah, Chiefs, they're 5-5. Again, this Broncos team, let me talk about them real quick just because they deserve it. Honestly, this Broncos team, the last couple games against the Texans, against the Raiders, and even not necessarily against the Cowboys, I guess, but those 2 games, the Raiders and the Texans, that Broncos team looked bad. They won them, and they won them by like the skin of their teeth. Both were 3-point games. This was a 3-point game as well. But like that's what I'm saying. Like good teams find ways to win in close games. The Broncos are the better team in this situation. There's no doubt. They have a better defense. Their offense, I would say, is a little bit more balanced at this point, even though J.K. Dobbins is injured right now. But yeah, it's just, to me, the Broncos are the better team right now. I'll talk a little bit about the Sunday night game before I sign off. Here's what I'll say about this Sunday night game. I wanted the Lions to win this game really bad. I'll just be completely honest, because I am, and still am, even after this game, a Philadelphia Eagles doubter. I know your defense is one of the best in the league, and that is the only reason why this Eagles team has an 8-2 record, is because of your defense. Because your offense, even Saquon Barkley is not playing well this year. Like, I have no problem even saying that. Even though that sounds crazy, Saquon Barkley does not look good this year at all. Like, it's not even like, oh, he's having like a down year. Like, he's having a bad year, in my opinion. Like, let me find Saquon Barkley for you on this list. And that's the crazy. He's 14th in the league right now. He has 662 rushing yards. In this game, he had 83 yards. Most of that was garbage time. Like, he had 48 yards before the last drive when they were just trying to kill clock and they just kept running it with Saquon. He had like 48 yards. So he got like pretty much half of his yards in the last drive. So like his stats are kind of inflated in this situation. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is so much of a better running back right now than Saquon Barkley. Like this year, I have no problem saying that. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is so much better than Saquon Barkley. Someone clip it. Go ahead. You know, Jared Goff, he looked like he was seeing ghosts out there. Like the Sam Darnold quote, that was Jared Goff last night. He was not connecting with his receivers. He was throwing it over them. He was throwing it behind him. He was constantly just like rushing. He was 14 for 37 for 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His 1 touchdown was to Jameson Williams, and it was a great catch and great run after the catch. Like that was a Jameson Williams play, not necessarily as much on Jared Goff. So like, I'm a little worried about this Lions team. Good teams, again, they find ways to win in close games. This Lions team, they're 6-4, right? Like it's not like they're like a 2-3 loss team. They now have 4 losses, and they've lost to the Eagles, the Vikings, the Chiefs, and the Packers. The wins they've had: Commanders, Buccaneers, Bengals, Browns, Ravens, and the Bears. So like they've beaten some good teams, but not really. Like when they beat the Ravens, that was when the Ravens were like, they were so battered in that game. That was a game where everyone got injured for the Ravens. And so I don't know. Like I love this Lions team, but right now they're 3rd in the NFC North. And I know they have some injuries, but I have to be off on them, and I'm off on the Eagles just because there's something wrong with this team. Like they're finding ways to win, but they remind me of the Chiefs of last year, and so maybe they'll still make the Super Bowl, but I just don't see them winning because like I don't trust Jalen Hurts. Like I know everyone's like, oh, you're crazy, like you're an idiot. Jalen Hurts, he had 135 yards on 14 of 28 throwing. Like at one point in this game, he was like 3 for 10. Like, this was a terrible game to watch. Like, I thought this was going to be, like, a really back and forth, like, heavy hitter, juggernaut after juggernaut. And it was, both these teams looked bad. Again, the Eagles defense, elite. Eagles offense, garbage. Like, truly. Like, Jalen Hurts, I'm out on you, man. I truly am. Like, I think you're a great leader, and I think you know how to win games. But, like, you are not fun to watch. How about that? Is that fair to say? Jalen Hurts is not fun to watch. And that's where I am with them. So, again, that really marks this game. Again, 16-9, the Eagles won this game. But, again, it's just both of these teams are not looking good. That is what I'll say. The NFC, there was this point in time where the NFC looked a lot better than it does now. And this is not one of those situations. But I really do appreciate everyone joining in today. Thank you again for watching. This is your host, Bad Takes, with Bad Takes in Football, signing out.